You wake up exactly when your body is naturally ready. There is no piercing mechanical alarm clock screaming in your ear, no rigid corporate schedule dictating your compliance, and absolutely no physical place you are obligated to be. You sit up, stretch your limbs, and ask yourself one beautifully simple question: what should I do today? For 99% of human history, this was not a utopian luxury or a hypothetical daydream. This was the literal reality of every single morning for roughly 300,000 years. And the prehistoric answer to that daily question looked absolutely nothing like the exhausted life you are living right now. The average modern human spends about 90,000 hours of their existence trapped inside a workplace that is roughly one-third of your total waking life, dedicated entirely to a job. But for the overwhelming majority of the human chronicle, employment did not exist. There were no wages, no management, and no career ladders to climb. So, what did our ancestors actually do all day? In 1963, anthropologist Richard Lee conducted a landmark study that completely shattered how we view prehistoric life. He systematically tracked the daily movements of the Dobju, Hoansi people in Botswana, one of the few remaining cultures practicing the ancient hunter-gatherer lifestyle. Lee discovered that adults spent an average of just 2.5 days per week acquiring food, totaling roughly 17 hours of physical effort. The rest of their time belonged 100% to them. This exact blueprint shows up everywhere anthropologists measure, from the Hadza in Tanzania and the Aceh in Paraguay to the Martu of Australia. Across entirely different continents and biomes, the survival math remains identical: 15 to 20 hours of work per week. You likely work double that just to cover rent. The cold proof of this ancient leisure society is etched into human bone. When physical anthropologists compare the skeletal remains of Paleolithic hunter-gatherers to early agricultural populations, the anatomical contrast is devastating. The early farmers were significantly shorter, and their bones bear chronic lesions from deep nutritional deficiencies. Their teeth were riddled with massive cavities due to a narrow, grain-heavy diet, and their spines were twisted with severe arthritis caused by repetitive agricultural labor. The pre-agricultural skeletons, conversely, reveal taller, robust, and immensely healthier individuals with minimal joint degeneration. Their anatomy tells an undeniable story. Ancient humans were doing far less repetitive physical labor, not more. They were structurally healthier because they were free. The most undeniable evidence of this abundance of free time is the existence of prehistoric art. In 1994, explorers discovered Chauvet Cave in southern France, home to magnificent paintings sealed away for 30,000 years. These are not crude, childish stick figures. They are highly sophisticated masterpieces, utilizing advanced linear perspective, complex shading, and anatomical movement. Crafting these images required intense focus, planning, and above all, empty time. Someone spent hours, perhaps consecutive days, sitting in the quiet dark by the warm glow of firelight, painting predatory lions and charging rhinoceroses onto stone walls purely for meaning, beauty, and creative expression. In Blombo's Cave, South Africa, scientists uncovered 100,000-year-old shell jewelry, tiny, delicate beads, carefully perforated using miniature stone drills. The nearest coastline was 20 kilometers away, meaning someone walked a 40-kilometer round trip just to harvest marine shells, then spent painstaking hours drilling holes into them just to look aesthetically pleasing to the tribe. In Germany, researchers found a 40,000-year-old flute carved expertly from a vulture bone, featuring 5 perfectly spaced finger holes. The person who manufactured this instrument possessed a deep geometric understanding of pitch and musical scales. They spent substantial blocks of time crafting a tool that had zero utility for hunting or tribal defense. It was manufactured purely for the joy of music. Let us structurally reconstruct an ordinary prehistoric day. You wake up naturally around the first light of dawn. The central campfire from the previous evening is still smoldering in the dirt, and someone gently adds dry wood to revive the flame. Breakfast is a relaxed, social affair. You eat leftover meat from a successful hunt 2 days ago, accompanied by wild berries and roasted nuts gathered by the band. There is no rush, no commute, and no morning traffic. People talk smoothly, telling jokes and planning the day with absolute fluidity. If a hunt was successful earlier in the week and the camp has stored food, nobody leaves. The morning might be spent lazily working on personal tools, carefully sharpening a spear point, weaving a grass basket, or scraping an animal hide with stone scrapers to make it soft and pliable for winter clothing. This is not work in the modern industrial sense. There is no supervisor monitoring your efficiency. You engage in the craft because material competence matters, because skill earns high social respect within the tribe, and because making things beautifully is a fundamental component of being human. If a hunt does happen to occur, it is not the frantic, chaotic chase scene depicted in Hollywood cinema. Humans are elite persistence hunters. We track a target animal at a steady, relentless jog for hours under the noon sun, deliberately driving the beast until its internal systems overheat and it collapses from total heat stroke. We are biologically engineered to outlast any mammal over a long distance because our hairless skin allows us to sweat continuously to regulate body temperature while actively running. The hunt takes roughly 3 to 6 hours, including the long haul back to camp. The meat is communal, distributed evenly among families. By early afternoon, the productive requirement of the day is effectively closed. What happens next is what modern, hyper-productive citizens find completely impossible to comprehend. Nothing and everything. People sit comfortably in the shade of the trees and converse. They play with the children, they map out relationships, and they groom each other, meticulously picking through hair to reinforce social bonds. They carve intricate designs into mammoth ivory or polished shell beads. They nap. Anthropologist James Sussman documented that among the Jew, Hoansi, adults spend up to 6 hours per day in pure social time, not working, not sleeping, just existing alongside other people, laughing and sharing space. In a prehistoric world, completely devoid of money, physical banks, police forces, or legal contracts, your ultimate survival insurance policy is your social relationship. If you are injured or the wild turns scarce, your life depends entirely on the generosity of your peers. If the group does not like you, they do not have to share their meat. Therefore, ancient humans invested massive blocks of time into cultivating internal social bonds. It was not a waste of time. It was the ultimate technology of survival. As the sun drops below the horizon, the true engine of human culture ignites around the fire. Anthropologist Polly Weissner analyzed hundreds of hours of spoken conversation recordings among hunter-gatherer populations. She discovered a stark cognitive divide between day and night. During the daylight hours, conversations are strictly practical. Who observed animal tracks? Which wild roots are ready for harvest? Or complaints regarding unfair resource sharing. But at night, 81% of fireside conversations completely shift to complex storytelling. People tell ancestral myths about how the cosmos began, recount tales of legendary hunters, perform comedy, and map out social networks. The campfire at night was the birthplace of human culture, religion, and philosophy, things you can only afford to think about when your stomach is full and you are physically safe from the dark. Furthermore, these ancient people did not sleep in a single, heavy, 8-hour block the way modern society forces you to. Sleep studies and historical archives confirm that before the invention of widespread artificial light, human biology operated on a biphasic sleep schedule. They would drop into a first sleep for about 4 hours, wake up naturally around midnight for 1 to 2 hours of quiet, wakeful reflection or intimate conversation in total darkness, and then drift into a second sleep for another 4 hours. A full prehistoric day was a masterclass in temporal balance. 4 to 6 hours of survival gathering, 6 hours of social grooming and storytelling, 8 hours of dual-phase sleep, and hours of sitting quietly, watching the clouds, existing without ever needing to justify your breathing through industrial economic productivity. Then, roughly 10,000 years ago, everything changed. Humans in the Fertile Crescent began domesticating plants and animals, initiating the agricultural revolution. And agriculture was an absolute evolutionary trap. Once you farm, you produce a surplus that can feed more children. More mouths mean your population expands, requiring even more intensive farming. Within a few short generations, the population exploded to a point of no return. The tribe could no longer abandon the fields because there were too many mouths to sustain via hunting and gathering. Humans were permanently locked into the system. Agriculture demanded brutal, unyielding labor, clearing land, plowing, weeding, defending crops from raiders, and managing storage. The historical lifestyle was erased. replaced by rigid schedules, land ownership disputes, specialized classes, and eventually, the invention of modern employment, the transactional idea that your time belongs to someone else. Today, you spend 90,000 hours grinding away at a job to buy back the exact freedom your ancestors possessed for free every single morning. They woke up already liberated, already enough, with absolutely nothing to prove to an economic system. They did not need to become successful. They were already inhabiting the peaceful, balanced life that you are sacrificing your entire youth to eventually retire into. We make art or listen to music if we can squeeze it into our frantic schedules after work. They made art because they had time, and because that is what makes us human. We traded time for productivity, leisure for population growth, and complete freedom for food security. If this deep dive into the hidden blueprint of human time and freedom expanded your mind today, make sure to hit that like button right now. Leave a detailed comment below with your thoughts on the agricultural trap or the 6 hours of social time, and subscribe to Hierau Stickly as we continue to tear down the unwritten systems of our world. See you next week.